You've been told you think too much, that you're too intense, that you make everything complicated, that you can't just relax and enjoy things. You've sat in conversations where you could already see where the argument was going 3 steps before anyone else got there. And you said nothing. You felt bored in rooms full of people, not because you don't care, but because nothing in the room was running at the speed your mind needed. You've been called arrogant for knowing things, antisocial for needing quiet, difficult for asking questions no one wanted to sit with. And somewhere along the way, you started wondering if something was wrong with you. There isn't. What you're carrying isn't a character flaw. It's the specific weight that comes with a mind that processes the world at a frequency most people never reach. Psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski spent decades studying gifted individuals. What he found wasn't a picture of people coasting through life on natural ability. He found people who felt everything more, who thought everything deeper, who burned out, not from lack of capacity, but from a world that kept asking them to shrink. Here's what no one tells you. Intelligence and emotional sensitivity aren't opposites. They're wired together. The same brain that processes information faster also processes threat faster. The same brain that sees patterns everywhere also finds it harder to stop seeing them. High IQ isn't a protective barrier. There are 3 patterns that almost every high IQ individual recognizes in themselves. Not because something went wrong, but because of how a complex mind actually works. Sign 1. The loneliness paradox. Sign 2. The problem you can't turn off. Sign 3. The intensity that has no name. Sign 1. The loneliness paradox. You are surrounded by people and you are alone. Not because you dislike people, but because real connection requires 2 people running at a similar depth, and that's rarer than it sounds. Psychologist Leda Hollingworth was one of the first researchers to study this. She worked with children who tested above 180 IQ in the early 20th century. What she found wasn't a group of thriving, socially successful kids. She found children who had retreated, who had stopped trying to connect in ordinary social environments, not because they were cold, but because they had learned through repeated experience that the things they cared about most made other people uncomfortable. Sign 2. The problem you can't turn off. You walk into a room and immediately see what's wrong. Pattern recognition is one of the core markers of high intelligence. The brain continuously scans incoming information, compares it to everything it has already seen, and generates predictions. In a high IQ brain, this process runs deeper and faster than average. It catches more, it misses less. The problem is that it doesn't have an off switch. You lie awake running the simulation again. You sit in a meeting watching a plan fall apart in your head before it's been proposed. You see the cracks in relationships and arguments and systems long before anyone else does. That isn't pessimism. It's a predictive system built to go deep, and it costs you something every single day. Sign 3. The intensity that has no name. You don't just think deeply, you feel deeply. You cry at things other people scroll past. You feel injustice in your body, not just your head. You become fully absorbed in ideas and music and problems to the point where the rest of the world goes quiet. Dabrowski called this overexcitability. It's his term for a nervous system with a lower threshold, one that takes in more, responds more, and holds on longer. Overexcitability means that for a high IQ individual, the volume on every experience is turned up. You weren't taught that this was connected to intelligence. You were probably just told you were too sensitive, too much. You were never too much. You were a high sensitivity system in a low-sensitivity world. Route 1. Processing depth. Route 2. Intellectual isolation. Route 3. The intensity is wired in. Route 1. Processing depth. Your brain doesn't just take in more information, it processes it differently. Most brains scan incoming data at a certain depth. They extract what's needed and move on. A high IQ brain runs the same data through more layers. It connects more variables, it holds more context, it generates more possible outcomes before settling on one. Neuroscientists refer to this as the neural efficiency paradox. High IQ brains often show less overall activation, not more, because they route information more precisely. Fewer neurons fire, but the network between them is denser and more interconnected. That's why you can arrive at an answer others haven't reached yet, and why you can't stop thinking once you've started. The network is still running. Route 2. Intellectual isolation. The experience of intellectual isolation isn't just emotional, it's structural. For most of your life, finding peers meant finding people who lived near you. In a room of 30 students statistically, there may be one or two who match your cognitive depth. When you spend years without intellectual peers, you don't just feel lonely, you learn to manage alone. You internalize that your depth of thinking isn't welcome. You develop a habit of self-censoring, of translating yourself into a version others can receive. That habit becomes the way you move through the world, and it slowly convinces you that the real version of you is too much to bring anywhere. Route 3. The intensity is wired in. Dabrowski identified 5 types of overexcitability: intellectual, imaginational, emotional, psychomotor, and sensory. Most high IQ individuals score high on at least 3. This isn't a personality trait layered on top of intelligence. It's part of the same underlying wiring. You cannot have the processing depth without the sensitivity. They arrive together. Principle 1. Stop optimizing for average environments. Principle 2. Your intensity is information. Principle 3. You don't need to slow down, you need a match. Principle 1. Stop optimizing for average environments. You were shaped by the average environment that surrounded you. That doesn't mean the average environment is right for you. High IQ individuals often spend enormous energy trying to fit into environments, social, professional, intellectual, that were not designed for them. They slow down, they simplify, they translate. The exhaustion isn't weakness, it's the cost of continuous compression, of being a system that was built for 10 and running everything through a dial set to 5. The answer isn't to work harder at fitting in. The answer is to find the environments where you don't have to. They are rarer, they exist, and they are the only place where your full capacity actually comes online. Principle 2. Your intensity is information. Everything you feel deeply is a signal, not a symptom. The intensity you carry, the way injustice hits you in the body, the way beauty stops you mid-sentence, the way ideas keep you up until 3 in the morning, that isn't a problem to be managed. It's data your nervous system is generating, and it's accurate data. The goal isn't to flatten the intensity. The goal is to learn what it's telling you, and to stop spending it on things that don't deserve it. Every time you burn out on a situation, relationship, or environment that requires you to suppress who you are, that's your intensity telling you something. Listen to it. Principle 3. You don't need to slow down. You need a match. The problem was never the speed of your mind. The problem was the gap between your speed and the speed of what was around you. You've spent years braking, holding back, waiting for the conversation to catch up, explaining yourself, softening your conclusions so they land easier. A high IQ mind doesn't thrive by becoming more ordinary. It thrives when it finds the right friction, the problem complex enough to engage it, the people deep enough to meet it, the environment expansive enough to let it run. You were not built for small rooms. Stop trying to fit into them. You were not given a gift. You were given a frequency, and for most of your life, you were surrounded by people who couldn't hear it. That's not a character flaw. That's not arrogance. That's not too much. That's the specific experience of a mind that was built to go deep, in a world that mostly stays shallow. The loneliness makes sense now. The exhaustion makes sense. The intensity that never had a name, it has one. Your job isn't to shrink yourself into a frequency others are more comfortable receiving. Your job is to find the right signal, the right people, the right problems, the right environments. They exist. And they've been waiting for someone who thinks like you. If this reached something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe. There's more where this came from.